my dudes, how's it hanging? It's your boy, ZNF1 here. Today I want to talk with you guys a bit about foraging, specifically with mushrooms. But before we go ahead and get into this though, let's cue intro. Now, there are quite a few different types of mushrooms out there. We're going to be specifically focusing on edible ones and ones that, again, you can forage, and use as nutritional supplement in case you get lost in the wilderness, or maybe, you just happen to want to have some wild mushrooms, that you can eat. Now, there are quite a few different types of edible mushrooms one can eat. All of them have different ranging sort of effects on everybody else too. So to start off with a few of them, we're going to, go ahead and label 6 different kinds that you can eat and what all they kind of bring to the table when you are ingesting them. Alright, so the first of the wild edible mushrooms that we are going to take a look at are the morels, or their scientific name, morchellas. So with these type of mushrooms, they are typically a fungi that happens to grow in the spring, and instead of the stereotypical umbrella sort of cap with the stem, they have more of a thimble with, finger-like appearance. So it's got, the stem and then a little bulge on it that kind of looks like the dome of your finger. These fungi do happen to have a few lookalikes that are toxic. However, though, it's pretty easy to differentiate the ones that are edible versus the ones that are poisonous. So there are 3 types of edible morels in the state of Illinois. The first of that being the yellow morel, or Morchella esculentoides, the black morel, Morchella elata, and the half-free morel, or Morchella semilibera. The half-free morel is actually free of the stem, unlike the majority of morels where it's infused or fused with the stem. Kind of a mouthful to say the scientific name, isn't it? Although recognizing morels in a group can be fairly easy, identifying the one that you have can prove to be difficult at times, simply because there are so many different varying morels that look like a couple of different other ones. The whole tangle of the fungi of morels is still being sorted out to this day. They do tend to make people quite ill sometimes, even if they're fully cooked. So just kind of be aware of that, and whenever you're ingesting wild mushrooms for the first time, just start off small and work your way up, so that way you kind of know how it affects you personally, because you don't want to sit there and eat a bunch of them, and then just fucking vomit it all up later. Wouldn't feel too good, right? The next edible mushroom that we're going to look at is the two-colored bolete, or Boletus bicolor. Now with this mushroom, it generally has a reddish coloration with a yellow porous surface, hence the name, two-colored. However, this is not the only mushroom that happens to look like this out there. There are several species that look fairly similar, and the best way to identify this one would be by a distinct odor that it gives off. And apparently that isn't too really reliable sometimes, and can help you to ingest ones that are actually mildly toxic. Just look for the distinctions in it. Look at the pictures I had here in this video. Look them up online, and just study them so you can identify them pretty easily, and you don't get them mixed up, because if you happen to ingest one that's a lookalike species, it can be mildly toxic and it wouldn't be too fun. This mushroom tends to go well with red meats and can replace white button mushrooms. Alright, so mushroom number 3 that we're going to look at is the meadow mushroom, Agaricus campestris. Now, this mushroom is fairly similar to the domesticated species like portobello and the primini. All these are different ages and varieties of the same species. Now, with this particular mushroom, it needs to be eaten with moderation, but it's still good to eat. However, you should take extra precautions with ones that happen to grow near roads or places where chemical pollution can have an effect on it. The reason why I feel like is pretty obvious. They could be contaminated with that, And this species in particular, you also should be very careful to look at the gill and the coloration of the spores, because there are several lookalikes that can be toxic. The next fungi or mushroom that we're going to look at is the giant puffball, or Calvatia gigantea. Now, these often range in size from basketball size to larger, and in between, but they also can kind of stand out, and it's a good field mark indicator whenever you found one. They're these big white fucking puffy mushroom balls sitting in the grass. The one drawback of this mushroom, however, is the fact that it spoils pretty quickly if it's not refrigerated, and it's often really big and kind of hard to fit inside a refrigerator. Another thing with smaller puffballs, they can kind of resemble amanita eggs, which if ingested can actually kill a person. So with the smaller ones, you want to make sure that you cut these vertically to make sure that the insides are homogeneous. That's because on the outside they closely resemble those amanita eggs. We don't want to just miraculously die that day, do we? Now, either way, with the bigger ones, you should still inspect them, even though they're not going to look anything like amanita eggs. You still should check them, because when the spores mature, they aren't really edible once they hit a certain point. The next one we're going to look at are chanterelles, or cantharellus. Chanterelles are ones that are said to be very delicious and are also kind of easier and more distinct than other types of mushrooms, simply because it's got more of a bell of a trumpet, or like the front of a trumpet, where it's got the opening and everything with the bowl dip, and it has gills on the outer edges. They can be, somewhat dented, flat topped, or even hollow at times too. Now, obviously you can get these mushrooms confused with other ones that aren't really edible or might be toxic, as with any other mushrooms. The key things to remember that will help you to identify these would be that the fact of the matter is that they don't have true gills like some mushrooms do. Species that are indigenous to my area here in Illinois would be the Chicago chanterelle and the Appalachian chanterelle. Now, the sixth and final mushroom that we're going to be looking at is a pretty vivacious one called lion's mane, or Ericium erinaceus. That one's kind of fun to say too, isn't it? This one is often yellow to whitish in color and club-shaped, in addition to having very hair-like soft spines on it. Now, apparently lion's mane happens to taste like crab meat, which is pretty interesting, and it's suspected to be medicinal too, although it's kind of preliminary right now. It also happens to fruit from trees, because that's what it feeds on, and it will grow year after year. Now, this mushroom, the lion's mane, does happen to have very similar looking relatives, to be exact. They do happen to share these hair-like spines, but they're not really too difficult to differentiate. Apparently, many writers happen to refer to these three hericiums, classified as lion's mane, to be pretty medicinal between the three and be fairly interchangeable. According to the place that I've done research on all this stuff, apparently there's not much evidence that they found yet to support it on the other ones versus, the traditional lion's mane that we discussed here, which shows to have some sort of medicinal benefits potentially in a preliminary extent or way. There are plenty of mushrooms out there of which can be edible. Now, if you're going to go out foraging at all ever, or you just want to do this for fun so you can find something to cook up, again, remember, start off slow and work your way up no matter what situation you're in, and look up the ones that are indigenous to your area, because it'll make your life so much easier if you do that. Look it up by state if you can, because that's going to make it 5 times easier to find them, and you'll know which ones specifically to look for. And also start off with just a couple. Don't just go after 5 or 6 different kinds. Look after 1 or 2 at first, and identify those, so that way it's hardwired in your brain, and then you'll be able to find them easier next time and then work your way up. I mean, you can do whatever you want. That's just a suggestion from my end to make it easier for you to find them. Now, if you did make it to the end of this video, go ahead and leave the word hericium down in the comment section below. Let me know that you guys made it to the end and you're a part of the 100% club. All right, so that's gonna be it for us today, my dudes. If you guys did enjoy, you know, as usual, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. It really does mean a lot to me whenever you do this and helps show me what you're enjoying that I'm putting out there for you. If you guys want more of an interactive experience, come join us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on stream on my main YouTube channel, which is Zelda Naruto Fan 1. Have some funny memes, talk about stuff like this, talk about exposing the system. If you guys want whatever's clever, or, you know, just sit back and enjoy your time there. But yeah, feel free to check that out. I won't be available on Wednesday for the next 2 weeks because I'm trying to work a little bit more at my part-time to get money so I can go to this wedding up in Michigan. But either way, I do hope you guys have a good rest of your day. And until next time I see you guys, please don't forget to live long, prosper, take care, and peace, and keep it 1,000,000% real. I'll see you guys on the flip side.